What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. I am your host, Steve V. This is episode 562, alongside Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. Happy Monday, birth on Tuesday, or Tuesday, wherever you're listening.
Exactly. Happy Monday, Tuesday, and all that good stuff. Joining us, rounding out this beautiful equation when we record this on a Monday night, is Teddy Alexis. How you doing, Teddy?
Hi, I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Excellent.
Lovely, darling.
Yes. I trust everybody had a good weekend. There was a lot going on, and sadly, Madonna ended her celebration tour in Mexico City and did it in a really great way. She performed 80 shows, you guys, and what was really beautiful about it is Selma Hayek, who was the special guest that came on as Frida Kahlo, dressed as Frida Kahlo, kind of reprising her 2004 role as the iconic Frida. And Madonna has always loved Frida, and it was this Vogue segment where they flashed the cards, and just so iconic and beautiful to see the two of them together on this last final show. They said "Viva Mexico, cabronas." They shouted out, and it was just so cool. And especially to all the people that kept saying, like, is Madonna going to be able to make it? Is she okay? And she proved she can make it and beyond. And there is one final free concert happening in Copacabana Beach in Brazil coming up in May, which is supposed to be one of the largest concerts of all time. So, and it'll be free. So, did you guys see Selma on stage? Any of you two? Because it looked amazing.
I watched it on the video. It's so good. Selma looks amazing. All of her guests have been pretty stellar. She had Ricky on. She had Monet Exchange. She had a bunch of drag queens. So she's doing it for our community. We love Madonna. She's a queen.
Proving she is the queen. Absolutely. So very excited about all that. Kodi, you and I were talking about Kitara. I'm talking about George Santos. When I said you had your hand on the polls when I said I think it's the last when George Santos failed to raise any money for doing another campaign to be in Congress. And I said it's the end of him. And you said I wouldn't rule her out yet. Well, it sounds like you were right, because Kitara actually he's threatened to bring her back to on Cameo where people could get messages from Kitara. And you two have been talking about Kitara this whole time. Teddy, when you heard this, what did you think?
As I said before, I really support him making an honest living. I think Cameo is an honest living. Yeah, she's working for her money for the first time in her life. I support this. I don't want her to run for Congress anymore, but I hope that she's happy. Sadly, she has access to the floor, because once you're elected, you have access to the floor for a lifetime. So I don't think it's the last time we're going to see her in Congress. So, but be blessed. Maybe she'll
Yeah.
be in drag in Congress. That would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, no one she needs to make a living. He needs to make a living. So who's to blame him, Kodi? But what do you say to this?
First of all, I thought you said I had my hand on the pole, and I was like, I always try to have my hand on the pole. Second of all, Teddy, why do you want to see that hot mess in drag in Congress or at all? Because she's going to come out looking dusty and crusty, and I do not want to see that. I'm good on George Santos. She needs to go work at Burger King or something like that, because I cannot. I don't think that this is anything that is going to sustain her, because her 15 minutes of fame is almost up, and I feel like she just needs to move on and do honest things, not rob anybody like she's been doing, but just disappear, honey. It's time to go.
He's such a liar that I just find it so funny that, I mean, it's almost like, did you really do Kitara more than once? I mean, it just seems like that picture came up and now he wants to make money off of Cameo. I mean, Cameo, the way you make money is people actually pay for these messages. So if people are dumb enough to want to get a message from this subpar drag queen
Get it.
and a liar that was thrown out
Subpar.
of Congress, it's like more power to you. I mean, if you want to waste your money on that, do it. But I just think spend your money better, or support a shelter or something, people that really need the money, and not George Santos. Thank you so much.
I love it. The reads in the beginning of the show. I
yeah.
absolutely adore it. We
We are
read her down.
Subpar. I love that. Subpar.
At best.
Well, I think
Let's.
he picked.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think he picked in his Seaware interview. I think that's his pick. I don't think he's gonna get any better than that. You know what I mean?
It's true.
Yeah. I think that's the peak that's sadly we're gonna keep hearing from. Oh my gosh, let's move on to something a little bit more positive. And it comes in the name of Wayne Brady, which, Kodi, I know you're a big fan of. He was on the Sherry Show, Sherry Shepherd, recently. And we've reported recently that he came out as pansexual and was owning that label. But when asked a little bit more to elaborate on that, he did this 8 months ago. After a lifetime of worrying about other people's opinions, Wayne Brady said he's done caring about what other people think of him or his life. And the clip is worth posting, or look it up, but I'll post it on TAGSPodcast.com. He goes into depth on he's too old to care what people really think. And I really related to that. Not that he's old at all, but that there is a certain point when you really don't care what people think. And he used to care about, he said, what people thought of him, what he was wearing. He cared about who he was hanging out with. And those are common things, I think, that we all can relate to. And then you get to a point where you're like, fuck it. I mean, this is me. And am I going to live the rest of my life worrying about what other people think of me? Or am I just going to be happy and hopefully be an example? And that's kind of the road I think he's going on. We'll start with you, Teddy, on what you thought of this, because we know Kodi has a lot to say about Wayne Brady. Make him wait a second.
It's evil.
I feel like Kodi manifested this because I remember when we hosted together, this is probably a couple of years ago, he was talking about how much he liked him. So I think you manifested this. But I think what he's coding, though, pun not intended, it's that he's pansexual, but he's really mostly attracted to women, because really pansexual really means that you're attracted to people's intellect, if I'm not mistaken. But he's not saying that he's going to do all that. Like, I feel like every time, because I've seen him in like 4 or 5 interviews after quote unquote coming out, which is not really a coming out, right? And but he's living in his truth. So what I think what he's hinting at is like, I mostly like women, but if a dick comes my way, be blessed. I'll hit it for a second, and then I'll be on my merry way. Good for him. Good for him. Because yeah, it's the best way to live is to live in your truth. And I feel like once people live in their truth fully, they're happy. And I think I see him like glowing in a way. And I'm happy for him. He's such an amazing performer. I've seen him live like 3 times, and every time there's an energy about him that is special and very rare. So good for him. And hey, I'm available.
Magnetic.
I'm available. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, yeah, I think we had Zachary Zane on the show a few different times, and Zachary Zane wrote in his book Boy Slut that he identifies as bisexual, Zachary, but that the difference often, even as a bisexual writer, because he's a writer for many publications, the differences sometimes between pansexual and bisexual can often even be confusing for someone like himself. I think sometimes what they mean as pan is that they don't see their attraction isn't specific to one gender at all. And so they just like whoever that human is. And so bi often refers to the sexuality, specifically male, female, but then it gets a little murky. So Kodi, let's hear it. You love this guy so much.
Hey, Daddy Wayne. Okay, that's how I want to start out, by shouting out to Daddy Wayne. And Steve, you're right. It means that he is, well, pansexual. I'm not going to try and define Wayne Brady's sexuality for him. That's up for him to say. But pansexual, the meaning is basically you are attracted to people regardless of their gender. So that gives me hope. So thank you for giving me hope, because I'm still trying to get him to slide into my DMs, or I'm going to do that to him, because he is a gorgeous man, and he's so intellectual and intelligent. And I just think that, him standing in his truth is really inspiring. And this is something that he said in the interview, that he is just, the reason that he did this, because he's a private person, is that he wanted to actually help brown and black young people to stand more in their truth and to not be so self-conscious about this. So I have to applaud that. I think that he's a wonderful example, and whew, God, that man is beautiful. So, all right, that's all. I've had I've got my heat a little risen on this now, so
Your
I can
thirst
stop
for
now.
him
Oh my
is
God,
palpable.
I'm warm, and I can't even talking about Daddy Wayne. Oh my goodness.
Well, let's bring that temperature a little bit down, because there's a former soap opera actor who posed for the cover years ago, a gay magazine actually. And I'm talking about British American actor Matthew Marsden, who in the 90s, he was on a couple of UK soaps. And then you might guys remember this. At one point, he was at the Grammys and he sang Hall & Oates' song She's Gone, and guess who was backup? This is 1998. Destiny's Child sang backup vocals for him on that. They were on the same label, and after that the album went nowhere. His music career went nowhere. You won't mind that I'm saying this now when you hear he has been calling for straight Pride Month, and as you all know, we're approaching Gay Pride Month in June soon, and he proposes that we call July Straight Pride Month. Quote, I am hereby announcing that July will now be Straight Pride Month. It's about time we came out of the shadows. Who is with me? Hashtag Straight Pride. And obviously, it didn't sit well, including a lot of people. Gay Twitter came for him, reminding him, remember when you posed for that gay magazine back in the day to promote your failed singing career, and it flopped? And he fired back. He was a little fiery. Firstly, what does that have to do with what I said? Secondly, I was on the cover of a lot of magazines. What does that have to do with anything? He kept saying. People kept saying the hypocrisy. Uh, he's been also known to be an anti-vaxxer, anti-woke. I think you know who he'll probably be voting for if he lived here in the States. But I mean, when you hear this for people, I mean, straight Pride Month, we don't even have to get into how ridiculous that sounds, Teddy, but it could. He might have a large base of fans that this type of dog whistle really can permeate his followers.
First of all, I'm gonna quote Kiki Palmer. I don't know this man. Sorry for this man.
Love me some Kiki.
She's the best.
I don't know who he is. I'm sorry. He might have a big following, but it's not me for sure. July
Ain't got a big
is
anything else.
Okay.
July is Pride Month in some places. Like Puerto Rico celebrates Pride in July, and Long Beach. So
Miami.
story next. Um, and I don't know why people are doing this. It's weird when people that have all the privilege, all the access, all the spaces, all the roles available to them still want to come into LGBT and brown spaces and kind of claim space as well. I'm like, I'm sorry, these spaces are done because there's so few spaces for us that we just need to carve out a little bit of time for us, just for us, from us, by us, and for us. And if you need to do that for yourself as well, oh, then see your way out and don't use the names code that are coded for our communities for you, because that's problematic as hell. So I'm sorry to this man. I don't know you. See your way out. Goodbye.
Thank you. Exactly. And it's almost like, Kodi, it's ridiculous just because, I mean, who's really going to be listening to him? And do you think it's a case of white man syndrome where he feels a little threatened because finally in certain parts of the world we're, seeing our community thrive? Or what is this about?
Girl, he wants to be oppressed so bad. Okay.
That's a good way
every,
to do it.
every other month is Straight Pride Month. We've celebrated straight people for millennia. Okay. It is time for us to get a slice
Millennia.
of
Love it.
yeah, for us to get a slice of feeling proud of who we are, what how we live, the things of that nature that make us who we are is too much for people who have had access to this power for their entire lives. And it is ridiculous for him to think that he hasn't lived in privilege his entire life. I mean, look at him, he's basic looking. I looked him up. I've seen the pictures of him, and he is not anything nice to look at from my perspective. And I think that he really needs to have a reality check and see and celebrate people who have been oppressed and disadvantaged in this world, and really see the world for what it is. I'm sorry, he's just his perspective is all wrong.
Yeah, sometimes as people age, they come out of the woodworks, and then you start hearing from them, and it's like social media didn't do them any help. It's like, if anything, it showed the ugliness of them, and it's like there was no need for him to say this and start all this. But hey, you wanted to get press, you got it, and not for a good way. Somebody who is learning and has changed in a good, positive way is Kevin Hart, who sat down with Anderson Cooper over the weekend for a 60 minutes interview in which Hart used to have homophobic jokes in a lot of his shows. I mean, I think he was talking about in 2019, he was getting a lot of uh, tweets about, like, remember when you had a lot of homophobic things. Like, he would say, yo, if my son comes home and tries to play with my daughter's dollhouse, I'm going to break it over his head and say in my voice, stop, that's gay. And what changed for him, of all people, was Wanda Sykes. Love me some Wanda. And it was Wanda who really broke it down for him. Wanda said, there's people that are being hurt today because of comments like the ones that you made then. And there's people that were saying it's okay to make those comments today based off of what you did then. And he said, it was presented to me in a way where I couldn't ignore it. So in those moments of despair, great understanding and education can come out of it, even if you're given the opportunity. And this was yesterday, and Jerry Seinfeld has come out today. He was on a recent interview basically saying that it's no fun being a comic today because you have to be the far left. You have to be so woke that it's taken all the fun out of comedies. And while there might be some truth to it, I do think the teachable moment for that Wanda gave our boy here, Kevin Hart, was great. I mean, Kodi, when you hear this, what do you think of how somebody really can change?
Oh, I adore Kevin Hart for actually doing the work and looking into himself to see where this is coming from, and really just taking stock of what people were saying to him. And because uh despite what Jerry Seinfeld says, it hurting people's feelings just because of a joke is not something that we should aspire to do. And if anything, it just makes you have to be a little bit smarter with what you say in order to not punch down at somebody. And I think that that's what the case is as far as all of these jokes, quote unquote, are concerned, because I feel like when you are stepping on somebody who is socially at uh, it's everything is a ladder basically. And if for people that are lower on the social privilege ladder, then you should use your platform to lift those people up instead of pushing them back down.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like making your children, or potential, the idea of children trying to control who they are, both who they choose to be, who they are, um, sexually is never a good idea. I mean, there's all these stories right now about gender reveals, which I always think is such a horrible, those parties that people throw, and people really go all out. It's just so gross to me. But there's a lot of videos that are coming out where people are disappointed with the outcome. Like maybe they didn't know if it was going to be blue or pink. Of course, blue being boy and pink being for female, and they find out at the gender reveal and they're let down because they wanted the other gender. It's like, you should just be happy to have a healthy baby and not worry about like the gender or their sexuality. I mean, Teddy, when you hear what Kevin Hart is now crediting Wanda Sykes for, coming around, what do you think?
I think it's great. And he's been having a journey. I do want to highlight something a little bit different, which is that we did not give Kevin Hart the grace that he deserved, because I know the jokes were problematic, homophobic, and violent, but he really was trying to come to terms with it, and the response was so violent as well. Like, he was basically canceled for a while. Remember, he lost the gig at the Oscars and all that stuff.
Right.
And there was a time that he could have picked the dark side, I felt. And I kind of felt pain for him, because he couldn't get like anything right. And I'm like, y'all need to actually give people the grace and the platform and the off ramp to actually be able to change. Because if you think about when you're having issues with people in your families and your friends, and you come too hard and you basically cancel them, stop talking to them, there's nowhere to go from there. So I just wanted to highlight it in a different way, because I do understand all of the comments and things. But and I'm glad that now he has find that way of of um existing while learning, because not all of us have all the information at all times, you know and most people really think about inclusion, about making space for themselves, and never think about the privilege, like Kodi was highlighting, of that you can still be oppressed but still have privilege to uh create space for other people. And that's a kind of like a very tricky and hard thing to understand. It's a little more advanced than what we usually see on these 1 minute clips online and on TV now. So I
Right.
just wanted to like that.
Good point. No, I love that.
If I
Absolutely.
if I could just comment really quickly, I
Yeah.
totally agree with you, Teddy. I think that it is a delicate balance between standing up for yourself and your emotions and how this made you feel, but also being welcoming and really caring about the person and their growth. So I think that that is the balance that you have to dance. That's the walk you have. That's the
Mhm.
line you have to dance between. And also, Teddy, I just want to say that was very wise of you. You're very empathetic. I wish you were like that to me most of the time, but you're not.
We
Don't
just
hold your
talk about
breath.
not centering ourselves, Kodi.
Never gonna happen, darling.
Love it.
I
You
want to add something
too.
more. I do want to add something
Yes.
more. Um, I will have grace with you, Kodi, when you deserve it. But on Jerry Seinfeld, I disagree with him. It's not hard. It's not hard. There's literally like three rules: don't be sexist, don't be racist, and don't be homophobic, and you'll be fine. But apparently, of these people, the only thing they have is homophobia, racism, transphobia, and all that stuff to be funny.
Yeah, I'm kind of
I'm
with
just
you
saying.
a little bit on the Seinfeld. I love me some Seinfeld and have always loved him. He has this brand new, I think it's a series or a movie coming out, and it looks good, but it's I think that the history of pop culture, and Whoopi pointed out today on The View that there's no black people in it. I
Oh,
mean, there's like
oh,
one,
girl.
and it's like what we had no take in this, and it's like kind of like he has
Mm,
every celebrity in the film as well, and that got me a little cringy to think that, ew, yeah, like nobody in your crew or team pointed that out, and you you know,
Wow.
it was I know, so I don't know, but we'll see. Um, Here is some good news for RuPaul Drag Race season 1 star Crystal. On Thursday, April 25th, a right wing pundit, Lawrence Fox, was officially ordered to pay £180,000 or the equivalent would be like $220,000 after losing his libel case against RuPaul Drag Race Season 1 star Crystal in January of 2024 this year. Specifically, Fox must pay the money to each. There's two people, because it was Colin, who's Crystal's out of drag name, and Simon Blake, who is the UK charity Stonewall trustee. Why? Because he called them, by calling Mr. Blake and Mr. Seymour pedophiles, Mr. Fox subjected them to a wholly undeserved public ordeal. It was a gross, groundless, and undefensible libel with distressing and harmful real-world consequences for both of them. Crystal is really excited, and she took to social media to say, if you just got this as a push notification from The Guardian, you're welcome. We don't often see this, Kodi, with our drag queens, and to see, being awarded for really, we've heard so much about drag queens and Story Hour last year, and how, take literature, LGBTQ literature out of our libraries, get rid of drag queen Story Hour. And to hear this, first of all, you're a fan of Crystal, and what do you think of this?
I am a fan of Crystal. I think that she's great, and I'm happy that this is the outcome for her. I want to get one thing straight. She was maligned in the media, and then she won a suit against the people that said something against her, correct?
Yes. Yeah. But one guy in particular called her a pedophile. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure that I grasp the content of it really quickly, because I think that's fantastic, because it sets a precedent for going forward, that we are actually part of society, and that we deserve to be stood up in defense for as well, and that the judicial system is not just for heterosexual cisgender people. It's for everybody.
Right, because livelihoods can be actually affected by this. I mean, her livelihood is based on getting gigs, and who's going to want to hire somebody that has that, even if it's not true? I'm sure she had to go through periods of time where she was out of work based on these claims, the age-old low-hanging fruit claims by the far right, I would say, that love to call our community, particularly drag queens, pedophiles. It's an age-old thing that they love to shout towards our community, and good for her for winning this sum of money because of all the work she probably lost. Teddy, when you hear this, it's such a win. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think it's great. The what I do want to raise awareness is that I'm glad that Crystal had the money or the access to bring this suit. It's really hard to get this legal stuff going, because you have to find a lawyer that will represent you. They'll probably want a retainer, which is the money that you put down even before you pay, which sometimes it could be 10, 50K. It depends on the person. That's why these processes are so slanted for people with power. So usually these drag queens don't have that kind of power, because they're gig to gig, right?
Right.
So I'm surprised that she had that power to like get somebody, or some type people do it pro bono, but it's very rare, right?
Right.
I'm glad that happened. I'm glad that the president is there, because it's so easy for somebody to just like with a stroke of the pen just say that you are a pedophile or whatever the rhetoric is now, and literally eviscerate your livelihood, which is
Mm-hmm.
what you prove that they were doing. And I hope she get a chunk of cash that is good and like set her for life.
Yeah,
That's what I think.
220,000 is no short change there. I think they have to split it, but she'll get like 100 grand. Of course, like you said, legal fees, which is different, Kodi, from say Sherry Pie, who we were talking about recently, who's been accused of baiting actors and using them to get what she wants from them, essentially, right, Kodi? And so
Oh
we call
yeah.
it out on either way.
Oh, for sure. Because I don't mean to. when I said before, we are not infallible as a people. We are human beings all the time. So we gay people, LGBTQ plus people, we run the gamut. And Sherry Pie belongs in the trash.
Exactly. We are not infallible. I like that. Okay. Speaking of money, there's a gay porn star, Reese Rideout, who, get this, launched a GoFundMe to pay for what? An $11,000 penis enlargement surgery, y'all. And apparently, he's making the money so far, but essentially he hit it up because he said that it's not April Fool's. He said that he has this surgery that he's in Atlanta, Georgia, by a Dr. Morgenstern, who's been approved for a specific type of surgery that would lengthen the ligament of his penis. And if you look at his picture, it's not like he has the smallest dick ever. It's actually average. It's a decent size, but he has never been happy with the size of it, and he thinks that if he gets this, he will be happy mentally, and because it's always bothered him that and he didn't have this, but also for his work. And he's also asking, get this, for people to pay for his hotel in Atlanta
Oh my
while he's
god.
there. The surgery is 900, about 10,000 with $1,000 deposit, and the remaining amount due at the time of surgery. Plus, I will need travel covered and a hotel near the urology center in case of any emergencies. And if, after doing a little bit more research into this specific type of penile enlargement, it actually really only makes your flaccid dick, it gives it about an inch, maybe 2 inches if you're lucky, but apparently doesn't do so much for when it's erect, which I'm assuming that's what you'd want. So first of all, is he getting the right surgery? Is it worth it? And should his fans be paying for it? I ask you, Kodi.
Reese Rideout. You came to me first. I do not think that this is a necessary procedure. I've been looking at pictures of his penis just right now, and
Can you say
it's
the name again?
fine. Reese
Reese
Rideout.
Rideout.
Okay.
Reese, and then
Googling,
Rideout.
I
I
can
was
put
very
it in the
familiar with his work.
please.
I'll put it in our little chat here if you want the
Ooh.
story that we got going on there. There it is. Okay, go ahead, Kodi.
Yeah, so his penis is a perfectly acceptable size. I would have no issues with
And
this
it's a
penis.
nice penis, by the way.
It's a nice penis. I don't think that the surgery is something that he needs because like you said, it's not something that's going to make his erect penis longer, which, as you pointed out, that's what he needs it for. If he wants it for his work, which I guess is a tax write-off for him, but he would need the erect penis to be a little bit longer. I'm just confused to ask people for money like this to do something that is murky at best in my mind.
Mhm.
I don't think that it is I don't think that it's a good thing. I think that it's something that we should probably I wouldn't put any money into it. I got too many things I need to put money into right now. I'm trying to make an album, y'all. I don't have time for Reese Rideout's penis.
And you can go to Kodi's crowdfunding. Yes, exactly. I hear you. It's like if you've made it this long, which I think he's been in the industry for quite some time and clearly has fans. I don't know what all of a sudden now why you'd want to do, like you said, at best murky, because it is risky, and heaven forbid something went wrong with this and then you didn't have any dick to work with. I mean,
Ooh.
work with what you got, make your content more juicy and engaging, and I don't think you should be making people pay for this, but hey, if you want to do it. Well, Teddy, what do you say to this?
I girl, you in danger, girl. Do not get the surgery. Quote Whoopi Goldberg. This is the thing. I read this political article about this surgery. It was like 13 pages. And Stevie, you sent it to me when Kodi and I were hosting together, and freaking Stevie,
Yes.
freaking Kodi did not read it.
What?
Um,
How you know?
so he took it out of the show after I read 13 pages, but
Oh, I
Oh,
let's
cut it
get
it
out.
back to
didn't
the
make
topic.
That's right. I remember now. I didn't read it.
interesting.
He had so
Mm,
many. We'll talk about it afterwards.
earning grace. So, anyways, no, going back to the topic, the surgery is basically like 10% successful. You always lose like sensations on your penis. Um,
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get the full erections back. Like it's just basically botching your penis. And looking at the pictures of this man, he has a very lovely penis. There's nothing wrong with it. He's there for a long time and a good time at the same time. So I don't understand what he's doing. I disagree with this. Do not donate. Do not encourage this. Thank you.
Also, I kind of want to interject and say maybe I feel like he's getting a little bit more insecure because he is aging and he's super hot now, but I feel like for me personally, if I was in his position, getting older would be something that I would be concerned about in this industry. So, from that perspective, I can kind of understand where his mind is at, but I feel like he just needs to refocus himself and get more in touch with himself. He's super hot. He needs to like boost his confidence more without getting the surgery because like Teddy said, if to lose sensation, that is a big thing. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and I would just push back on the aging thing. I think he is going through something, but this isn't the answer because of the risks involved. But I mean, time and time again in recent years, the daddy is really having its time frame, and aging is like people are looking for different types of models for adult content, and I think he should
Mhm.
segue into that a little bit more, and versus like going under the knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So recently, this is kind of scary. Military service members were secretly filmed basically jacking off in bathroom stalls on a military base. I'm talking about Marines and sailors who were stroking their cocks, didn't know, obviously, that they were being filmed. And they traced it back to illegal videos that were then posted. Their names actually were put online as well, put up on Pornhub, and the guy who is responsible for this, or the person, goes by Play Guy 148. But that's all they know. They haven't really linked it to anybody at this point, and they linked it up because of records to identify the IP address and the activity. But this is really awful. I mean, I can only imagine if you were in the military and sex is really hard, and if you just want to get one out, to make, these are young people, guys on active duty, and to be filmed and then to be outed like that, it's really horrifying. I mean, it's a different story when we were talking about the news anchor on New York One, that Eric Adame. Remember that story where he
Yep. Oh
actually
yeah.
was putting himself on one of those sites where, people tell you what they want to see. What are those sites called, Cody?
It was a chatterbait type
Like,
of a chat
yeah.
Mhm.
chat roulette type
Yeah.
deal. Yeah.
Where he knew what he was doing, and when somebody asked him, in his fans that were watching him live streaming, and he did this several times, to call out your boss at New York One and write "I'm a slut" at New York One, or I'm paraphrasing that, but essentially that's what he did, where he merged his work life into his adult life. I could see that's a totally different issue. These are just guys, stroking one out. I mean, Teddy, when you hear this, what do you
Mhm.
think?
It's like I have no words because these are people that are not wanting to be seen, right? This is the complete, you
Right.
can make it's not sexy. These people are just literally trying to have some privacy, a private moment with themselves, which in these spaces, I went to ROTC, so I visited all the bases. um their privacy, it's very hard to come by, so they're the only place they have is this little stall, and they're not cruising, they're not doing any of that scene, and to have their privacy violated, not only with their images but also with their names, is
Oh,
heartbreaking. And I hope they
Hmm.
actually come down with like they throw the book at them, that person, because this is wrong at so many levels that it's disgusting.
yeah. Apparently, civilians were involved in this too that were being filmed, but
What?
essentially, it's seemingly, I mean, you can only imagine like an inside job, and it's really hard, I would imagine, to get on these bases at all. And so
Mhm.
it's looking more and more that it could be an inside job. But I mean, Cody, when you hear this, just the level of, like Teddy spoke of, that there's very few spaces to have any sort of privacy, and to know that you're being outed in this capacity is, what do you think?
Yeah, this is beyond disgusting. As far as my knowledge, well, I'm going to first say that when you were talking about it at first, I said to myself, oh, that sounds a little hot. And then you mentioned that it was without their knowledge, that it was, that their names were, they were basically doxxed, and that this was consent has to be a factor when it comes to anything sexual, because
Mhm.
once that is out the window, then it basically somebody has been assaulted, and we can't have that. That is something that is paramount when it comes to anything sexual. As far as I know, because I basically grew up for a portion of my life on military bases, you need to have either a pass to get on the military base or a military ID, and that would limit who would be able to actually record these people and post it on to, especially if they knew their names. How does that even happen? That is
Mhm.
wild to me. It's somebody that they knew definitely, and they need to be persecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because that is, it's just disgusting.
Totally disgusting. The good news is that Pornhub has worked with authorities to remove all of those videos on Pornhub, and the investigation continues. So hopefully they will find this person doing this, because it's just, like you said, despicable. How do you feel about this? You're dating somebody and it's going well. You're at the 6 month mark, and the guy you're dating says, "Do you want to share our locations on our phones?" Would you be okay with this, or would you find it invasive? This happened recently where somebody was asking for some advice. They went on to say it helps to plan better when it comes to timing and meeting in various places, since you can see where the other person is. He used an example of how when he cooks dinner for us, it would be helpful to know how far away I was from his place so he could time the meal accordingly. I this 6 months, it would be a hard no, and I would be like, "Who am I dating? This is scary." And I'm thinking about a guy that I'm starting to spend a little bit more time with. That I could just imagine if I brought this up at some point, he would be out like. I mean, I would see the steam from like his exhaust going in the distance. It would never fly in a million years. But I mean, Cody, let me start with you, because I have a feeling you would be all about this.
Oh, Steve, you know me so well.
I think I do.
So I tend to move pretty fast. If I know that I like you, uh, I move pretty quickly, and this would not bother me. I feel like, well, but there are certain stipulations to this, because I'm not doing it for the random person that I'm not feeling. Actually, it probably wouldn't even get to 6 months. If we get to 6 months, that means that I like you, and that this would not bother me because I trust you. And all of the ducks have to be in the row for me to actually get to this place. So for me, this would not be something that I would bat an eye at, because if I don't have anything to hide. And I'm not trying to say that anybody else has anything to hide. I'm talking about me personally, myself. This is something that means that somebody is checking up on me, that is, uh, wants to know, that cares about me, and really gives a shit about where I am and when I'm coming home to see them. That's how I look at it. That's from my perspective. Everybody's entitled to their own perspective. And I am, yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat.
I mean, I could see for emergency cases, and I've mentioned before, I watch a lot of like Dateline, and I've heard stories of actual people sadly finding out where their partner was based on these types of apps, like, or you sharing your locations. But the idea of I want to know when to cook dinner on, what is this, the 50s? I mean, Mary Poppins. It's like, oh honey, you're coming, you're 20 minutes away, let me put on the pasta or the pot roast that I'm cooking tonight. It's like, this is not an episode of Leave It to Beaver. I mean, Teddy, what do you
Wow.
say of this idea of sharing? Would you do this?
Um, the timeline, it's different for everybody, I think. I don't know if 6 months. It took me 2 years for me. My best friend asked me to share my location with her, which now I understand that it was like a security thing. So she has my
Hmm.
location all the time. I feel like with the technology that we have, somebody should always have your location. And if you're not a sketchy person, sketchy people out there, you should be fine. You just so you're safe. If something happens to you, they'll know the last place you were. Um, and if these people have a healthy relationship, I don't see this as a problem at all. Um, I like people knowing where I am. I don't really have many few places. I have very few places to go, so I don't see it as a problem. I don't know about the timeline. I just think the timeline is a little bit tight for what I would
That's
be
kind of
looking
where I'm
for.
at too. It's a little bit tight. I mean, 6 months, my goodness. But people work in different ways. I feel like if you can't find me, where are you going to go? You're going to go to the Eagle, right? I mean, hello.
I'll
Steve's pretty
see you
much can be
there.
found at the Eagle with all the other employees. And so that's pretty much my locations. That's where to look for me.
I have a
Well,
Uh,
question for Cody
what I
though.
what I have done is if once I shared my
Uh-huh.
location with somebody, if I didn't want them to know where I was, I would just leave my phone at home because the location is not about where you are, it's about where your phone is.
Talk about
Wow,
shady.
you sound like a
Just
Wow.
first
get
degree
myself on this
murderer.
podcast.
This is
Also, I
like a
just want to
true
ask a
crime waiting
question.
to happen.
I mean, you got to outsmart the technology, honey. You got to be smarter than it. Don't let it use you. You use it.
Hmm.
Number one. And would you guys share your location with me?
I would.
I would.
Oh, good.
It's a
Yes.
resounding yes. Here's
Yeah.
a technical question, and I know you said
Uh-huh.
you wanted to say something. Here's a technical question. What if you have, I don't have it, but what if you have an Apple Watch and you do what Cody said, you leave your phone at home, but you bring your Apple Watch because, you
Mhm.
still need to check or text somebody or get that Uber. What's it going to show?
I
It
don't
Does
know.
shows
anyone
whatever
know?
you share with. So you can share the
Ah.
location of your phone or your watch or both. Um,
Oh, so
but
share the
they're
phone,
different.
leave the
Like my
phone at
iPad has a
home.
different ID. Like it's all different. Yeah.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Got it.
Yeah.
Did
It is
anybody else
rough.
want this? This is a hot topic. Anybody else have anything to
I
add?
wanted to ask Cody if he shared his location with Joe when they were together.
Oh, hell yeah. I would share my
Oh, you
location with
know
him
that was
right
a
now
hard
today. That
yes.
yes, 100%. I
Okay.
had his, he had mine because and you guys were talking about putting on dinner and that was totally us. I would totally see where he was. It would say 10 minutes away. I'd be like, "Oh my god, now is the time to put the pasta in the water." Okay.
Okay, June Cleaver.
Oh.
I was just laughing
Oh.
on the inside because that's exactly what I would do. And it's different for everybody. Like, I'm not going to shit on anybody else because they're not into that. But for me, it made me feel warm inside. So I was going to do it. Like Wayne Brady.
I love it. I mean, or of course, he could just text you and say, "Hey, honey, I'm 20 minutes out," but there's always that. But I think it's good. Final word, I think, is for like for safety. I love that you and your friend Teddy, girlfriend,
Mhm.
do that. I should probably do that with my sister, just
You should.
because yeah. I mean, we're super close, and of course, you guys, yeah. So All good. Oh my gosh, so much fun, you guys. We really so many topics today. This
I
is
know.
fiery. I loved it.
We
You
got
can
it.
always, yeah, you can always follow my co-host. You can follow Teddy on Instagram at Teddy Alexis. At Teddy Alexis. Anything else you're promoting right now, Teddy?
I'm gonna be in Short and Sweet in June, so anybody in LA, the Short and Sweet Festival, I'm gonna be there like in 3 shows. It's gonna be really fun.
Nice. I love that. What is that? Just so we
Congratulations.
know.
It's a 10-minute competition. All the
Oh,
theater people
right.
come out. There's people get cut. They go to semifinals. More people get cut. They go finals, and then famous people come and give you prizes. It's really fun.
Awesome. That's
That's
so
amazing,
exciting.
Teddy.
I love that. If you can follow Kodi, he's a life coach at KMD Coaching, at KMD Coaching on Instagram, or his personal account at Mr. Maurice. Of course, download his brand new single inspired by this show, Tags Podcast. It's called Talk About It, available wherever you get your music. And follow me on the gram. I am _Steve V. Or go to my Twitter account at TAGSPodcast, where you get a preview of my Just for Fans and Only Fans. And all good there, keeping it going. And in the meantime, continue having hot, gay
Yay.
sex.